And I am making finger marks because I am a disgusting human. This is a lot of car to get to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. Oh man, even from 45 miles an hour, you can just feel all of that power right there. Hello, my name is Alanis King, and this right here is a Bentley Continental GT Speed convertible. This car has a 6.0 liter twin-turbocharged V12 engine with 650 horsepower, and it goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. For all this, yeah, this car is super powerful, and it's also so comfortable. I've driven it a few times, and every time I have it, I just want to go on constant road trips because it is so enjoyable to be in, and I cannot wait to tell you about it today. But first, I should tell you, this Bentley Continental GTC Speed is not available on Cars and Bids. This came straight from Bentley. They wanted me to drive it one more time before the company ends its 12-cylinder engines, but we'll talk more about that later. If you want to check out cars that are available on Cars and Bids, we put a handy little link in the description of this video. Before we get to this car, let's talk about that thing I mentioned earlier, the end of Bentley's 12-cylinder engines. Bentley makes W12s, where the cylinders form a W shape. That means the cylinders are in a grid of 3x4 instead of 2x6, like you would see with a V12. The death of the W12 comes 20 years after it was introduced, and its history is intertwined with the history of the Continental itself. So we'll discuss both today. This Continental GT debuted in 2003, just a few years after Bentley split from fellow luxury automaker Rolls-Royce. Bentley and Rolls have had a really complicated relationship over the years, but it all ended when Bentley went to Volkswagen and BMW took Rolls. That 2003 Continental was the first all-new Bentley to come under the Volkswagen ownership, and it was revolutionary for the brand. It boosted sales, but more importantly, it established a new Bentley. No longer was Bentley a Rolls-Royce sibling. It was now a direct Rolls-Royce competitor. And something I find really funny is that every time I'm in a Continental, people are like, "Is that a Rolls?" Not really. That all-new Continental in 2003 came with an all-new Bentley W12 engine. It was a way for Bentley to say, hey, look at us and our cool new engine. It's not a V6 or a V8 or a V12, it's a W12, and that makes us different. And in 2003, that W12 made 552 horsepower. But you might be wondering, sure, it's different, but why didn't Bentley just go for a V12 instead? For a long time, those were everywhere in the supercar and ultra-luxury world. Boy, does Bentley have an answer for you. This W12 is more compact. So, Bentley says compared to an equivalent V12, this W12 actually saves 24% lengthwise, giving Bentley more space to play with the cabin and the rest of the car to make it more luxurious and just a better experience as a rider or a driver. The W12 will die in April 2024, and Bentley said that by then, the company will have made more than 100,000 W12s. That is a wild number. The grand finale for the W12 engine is the Bentley Batour, which is a 740 horsepower, $2.1 million car that's limited to just 18 examples. They've been sold out for a long time now. When the W12 ends, Bentley will use its production space to work on V8s and V6 hybrids. Now it's time to talk about this car's engine. And I just want y'all to know, I drove this car like 2 hours ago, and this thing is still warm. I tell you, these big engines are so fun because you can just cook your hands on a cold day. It's really nice. Anyway, this particular W12 has 650 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque. That power goes to all four wheels through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic, and it rockets this car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. This is a lot of car to get to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. Bentley's W12 has what Bentley calls variable displacement, or what you and I likely call cylinder deactivation. That means we have 12 cylinders right here. But if you're not using all of them, say you're cruising, you're not flooring it, cylinders will deactivate. This car will run on 6 cylinders instead of 12, saving you gas money if you care about that kind of thing at all. In the 2 decades since the Continental debuted, its looks really haven't changed much. We still have these circular headlights, the large mesh grille, the bulky figure, the wide fenders, and these smooth lines. If anything, in 20 years, the Continental has just gotten more ornate. These headlights, I wish any camera could do them justice, because I know this camera won't, and my iPhone won't, and none of them will, but they look like glowing crystal glassware. The lines, the angles in here, I mean, it's beautiful. And if you want to talk about diamonds, this car is full of diamond patterns. They're on the doors, the seats, the cup holders, the switches, the stitching, the handles, the speaker mesh, everywhere, the grille, tons of other places. To me, it's subliminal messaging that if you're surrounded by diamonds, you must be a diamond too. And it only costs you $400,000 to be surrounded with that messaging whenever you want. Now, before we get inside the Bentley, it's time for what is usually my favorite segment, but unfortunately, I can't even get my hips in this Bentley Continental GTC Speed's trunk. I got to the airport the other day and I had my big suitcase because I also had my camera bag. And so I had 2. And my big suitcase didn't fit in this little opening, and I thought, not gonna fit in there either. I'm not. And I don't. So, does the Bentley Continental GTC Speed's trunk pass the Alanis test? No. No, it does not. Welcome inside the Bentley Continental GTC Speed. And I can tell you, color-wise, what this car lacks on the outside, because it's gray, it makes up for on the inside. I am obsessed with this red accented interior and all of this diamond quilted stitching and the carbon fiber in the dashboard. This car is just so nice. And as soon as you're in it, you're like, oh, it's me. I am the it girl in this car, because you are. I mean, it looks so good. And one thing Bentleys have is they have a lot of buttons in this center console area. And it actually, every single time I get in this car, despite driving it a few times, I realize I don't know where anything is. And I'm like, okay, fan is here, and seat ventilators are here, and the warmers are here, and the neck ventilators or warmers are here, and this is here, and how do I adjust the temperature, and how do I do anything? I don't know. I never know. One thing I love about this car is that not only do I have my seat heaters, which seat heaters are in my top 2 of car features. We have manual transmission, and then we have seat heaters. Not only do I have the seat heaters, but I also have neck warmers. Oh my goodness. I just click this little neck button and it shoots air at my neck depending on the outside atmospheric conditions. So if I'm going faster and I have the top down, the neck heater goes harder, and if I'm at a stoplight, it slows down. I wish it would just like blast my neck at all times. I love to cook my neck, and this car lets me cook my neck. We also, of course, have the standard analog clock, which you get in any fancy car, because if you're in a fancy car, you have to have an analog clock, despite also having a digital clock. You have your infotainment screen come up, but as soon as you park the car and turn it off, it flips inward, restoring this plain dashboard and like really emphasizing the old money look. Oh, so nice. I only really have 3 issues with the inside of this car from a driver or front passenger perspective. The first is that when I pull into a parking spot, my 360 camera, for some reason, doesn't automatically come up. It just shows the car in this sea of black screen, and I don't really understand that. So in order for me to get the 360 camera up, there's probably a different way to do it, but in order for me to do it, I just pop the car into reverse and then pop it back into drive, and the 360 comes up. But it's weird that when I'm pulling into a spot and slowing down, it doesn't automatically come up. The other issue that I have with this car is very easily solvable. I've already gotten used to it. When I shift this car into reverse, sometimes I forget to push it all the way up into reverse, because you have to do like a harder push to get it into reverse. And if I do just like my normal little push, it puts it in neutral, and then I'm like, why isn't the car moving? That's another issue. Third and final issue with the interior of this car is the piano black. Why is there piano black in a Bentley? I am touching it right now and I am making finger marks because I am a disgusting human with grease and all kinds of stuff on my fingers, just like all of us are. I will constantly scream about how piano black is the worst, because piano black is the worst, because this looks good in a showroom for like 5 hours in a showroom and then it gets dust on it. But as soon as this gets into a customer's hands or anyone's hands, flakes of dust, skin grease, everything gets on this piano black, scratches get on this piano black, and it starts to look really disgusting. It shows you all of the nasty parts of being a human. And I firmly believe that no car should have piano black. The Kia Seltos should not have piano black. The Kia Carnival should not have piano black. The Bentley Continental GTC Speed, which is 10 times the price of either of those cars, should not have piano black. Get rid of it, end it, burn it all, please. The back seat of this car is actually not bad space-wise. It's not horrible. So when the seat is actually where it should be, you really have no knee space, and I'm 5'8.5". Your knee is touching the back of the seat when you're behind the driver or something like that. But you could do this on short distances, right? Like I've been in the back of a Lexus LC500 for 15 minutes before. You can do it. But if you're going to go on a road trip, this is a purse shelf. It's a beautiful purse shelf. It looks really nice. If you had just a little more space, it would be fantastic. But it's a purse shelf. All right, driving the Bentley Continental GTC Speed with all of my luggage in it, because my luggage doesn't fit in the trunk. I tried to put my suitcase in the trunk when I got here, and it did not go. It did not go. Kind of like me. I didn't go in the trunk. My suitcase didn't go in the trunk. These things happen. This car is so enjoyable to drive. I have driven it so many miles this week, and I've loved every single mile, because right now I have my massagers on my seat. I can put on my seat heaters. I can put on my neck heaters. I can do whatever I want in this car. I microwave my neck. This car makes you want to go on road trips and just hang out and chill. And I think the best part of it is that not only does it make you want to go on road trips, it also has all of that power for when you do want to have fun with it. And that is so cool, because most of the time you're not using that power. You're just going down the highway, chilling, having fun. And then when you do want to use that power, it's right there and you can use it. The only problem is I have to go really slowly over dips and bumps, because this car is surprisingly low for what it is. And so you have to wait until there's no traffic so you can ease over the dips and bumps in the road, just like I did right there. Wow, look at that. Oh, and this car just has a low growl when you're driving. It's not intense, it's not anything. You just know it's there. And I think that's a really cool thing about very powerful all-wheel drive luxury cars, is they have this little growl and they're all-wheel drive, and there's just something about it that makes you feel so powerful. That's what these cars are for. They're meant to make you feel good about yourself and what you're driving, and they do. Now you'll notice I have the top up right now. I've driven this car so many times with the top down, and it is amazing. And you can have full-on phone calls in here without the windscreen blocking the back or anything like that, without having any extra sound padding. You can have phone calls in this car on the highway with the top down. It is impressive. But I have the top up right now, and when you have the top up, it's actually, you lack some sight lines. So when I look over my shoulder, giant pillar. I lack that sight line right there, but when the top is down, I can see free and clear and everything, and it's amazing. And I'm going over some really rough road right now, and the car does move with the road like any car would, but you're just so insulated from it that you're like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I have my seat massagers going. I don't need anything. I'm good. Let's rip this thing a little bit. Oh man, even from 45 miles an hour, you can just feel all of that power right there. It's just, this car just, oh, you floor it, and it's just so strong feeling. It just has that classic all-wheel drive, very powerful car feeling where you're completely planted on the ground. There is no breaking loose behind you. There's nothing going on. You just plant to the ground and you go. And that is such a powerful feeling. It feels so firm and confident. And that's what you want when you buy this kind of car. And I will say I'm on the highway right now because I have places to go and things to do. But I have driven this car actually on Circuit of the Americas at the racetrack. And I tell you what, this car is surprisingly fun to drive on a racetrack. Obviously, we have tons of heft in this car. This car is kind of like a bus, okay? And when you're driving it around the racetrack, it feels kind of like a bus, but kind of like it belongs. I went through the S's at Circuit of the Americas, and you're like, and there's so much weight being thrown in every direction. But then as soon as you hit a straightaway, you floor it, and this thing just catapults. Obviously, this is not meant to be a track car. This is meant to be a grand tour, and it's great at that. But it is pretty fun actually to drive on the racetrack, and it's great to drive on the road. I mean, I'm going down the highway right now. It's like it doesn't even matter. I did a 2-hour each way road trip yesterday to go drive a Suzuki Cappuccino. It felt like nothing. It felt like I was in the car for maybe 30 minutes, because when you're in this car, the experience is just so peaceful that you don't have that typical road trip stress going on. You're just hanging out and you're good. And you also, when you think about the size of the engine and how they chose this 12-cylinder layout, the W instead of the V, to make more cabin space, you realize, oh yeah, I do have a lot of space in here. I have space to stretch out. I have space for my legs and my arms and everything, because this cabin is really focused on comfort, and it does a great job. I wish I had my neck warmers on right now, because man, it is so nice. And you just look around in here and you feel important and you feel just stylish. You see all the diamond stitching and all the carbon fiber and everything in here, and you're like, yeah, this is me. Look at me in this car. I am so cool and I have good taste. You steer this car, there's a little bit of dead space after you move the steering wheel, just a teeny bit. It doesn't immediately twitch when you move the steering wheel, just a teeny bit of dead space. You kind of want that little bit of laxness when you're in a grand tour like this, because ultimately when you're in a car like this, you're on road trips, you're doing things leisurely. You don't want to just every single time you move your thumb just have the car just that little bit of play is supposed to be there, and it works really well in this car. But I mean, everything about this car is just so enjoyable to drive. Taking the top down and just being in the sun. People will yell nice car at you because you have the top down and they know that they can get your attention, and you just enjoy it. It's a really nice experience. And obviously for $396,000, that's what you expect. This is gonna be a great experience. Another thing about this car that is obviously a great thing, but can be a little frustrating, is that it's so comfortable and insulated that going 75 miles an hour feels like you're going nothing. And obviously I am in a tank right now. This is a large vehicle. So it can be beneficial to have a little bit of sense of how fast you're going and what you're doing. But if you're going down the highway on a road trip and you're going 75 miles an hour, it feels like you're going so much slower than that. And you're like, oh, I want to speed up, because it would feel like nothing to go faster than this. But you need to go the speed limit and abide by the rules. This is a large car, and if something goes wrong, rare occurrence, but it can happen. If something goes wrong, you have a lot of weight that you're controlling. I do like to have a reminder of how fast I'm going in a car, but I also understand that you buy a car like this to not have that reminder. And so yeah, when you're on a road trip, you're driving and you're like, man, 75 is not that fast. Yes, it is. Don't think like that. It is. The only real negative for what this car is that I have noticed in my many hours of driving it this week is that the infotainment screen is surprisingly slow. You'll be clicking it and you have to wait to do things. In a luxury car with massaging seats, the massaging seats time out after a certain amount of time. And when each person goes to do their massaging seats, you actually have to wait because the screen takes a long time to load. I don't know if this is my Continental in particular, the one I'm driving right now, or if it's a thing on all of them. I can't remember if it was the thing on the last one I drove, but oddly slow screen. But man, every time I'm in this car, just makes me want to drive more. And my massagers went off, so I turned it back on and I relax and I finish my drive. So that was the Bentley Continental GTC Speed. It's so sad to think that the days of 12-cylinder Bentleys are almost over. But that's life. Things begin, we learn to love them, and then they end. If nothing ever ended, then nothing would be special because we would be numb to it all. I'm so sorry to say that this Continental is not available on Cars and Bids. But if you want to check out cars that are, we added a handy little link to the description of this video. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.